well known, where he says, what you bring forth from within you will save you, and what you don't bring forth from within you will destroy you. He's saying there's a power inside of us that has to be expressed. And these texts are all about how we awaken that power. Okay, so the name, I'm going to use a word and then I'll define it. The name that is given to that power traditionally is called divinity, but it has nothing to do with religion. So that association is made because there are schools of divinity that make that, and they're great schools. They do great things. But the contemporary definition of divinity, I love this, the ability to transcend perceived limitations. And that's it. So the ability to transcend, to become more than perceived. Joe, you and I, our listeners, we are living limits that probably aren't even real.
Like, I remember when they were talking about things like the face on Mars, and you're like, what? That sounds so kooky. And then you see pictures, and you go, hey, man, what is that? Why don't I hear about that in school?
Yeah, well, we had Richard Hoagland on
Yes.
night after night after night after night for weeks on end
Yes.
when that came out. And
Yes.
actually, that face on Mars had a lot to do with my career path, actually.
Well, so what is your take on all this? Because one of the things that happened was with the face on Mars is the initial images were very grainy but fascinating, because it did kind of look like a face, but maybe even more remarkable, because sometimes there's faces like in the side of a rock, it looks like a face. More remarkable was the geometric pattern of the base of it.
Yeah.
And so I kind of dismissed that when listening. I want you to have a better life. I want your life to be better. You know, this is an interesting thing about whether it's bots or whether it's, you know, an actual human being talking about stuff. The way you approach life and the way the people around you approach life is very contagious. And if you're doing it in a very positive and a loving way, in a friendly way, in a communal way, that's contagious. It's really good. It's good for everybody.
Yeah.
But if you're bitter and shitty, it's bad for everybody. What Art was like very friendly and you know, and fascinated by all these things, and he was a real pro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, so when I did his show, it was like one of the highlights of my life. And I got to do the internet version. I never got to do the radio version.
I'm very passionate about this. The experts are saying unless we change our trajectory right now, we very probably are the last generation of pure humans that the world will ever know. That by 2032, when you go to the supermarket or go to the airport, the people you talk to will be some hybrid, maybe some more and some less, but will have some kind of technology embedded into their bodies. I was on a panel recently, and I was with a group of scientists, and they said, well, what's wrong with that? You know, isn't that the next step? Isn't that our natural step in our evolution? And I said, no, it is not, and here's the reason. When we replace our natural biology with synthetics, our natural abilities begin to atrophy. Cells will, let me just give a perfect example.
Is it your belief that there was a civilization on Mars that were us, and that we migrated to Earth and then eventually populated Earth? Is that what you're thinking? Or that we coexisted in both places?
I think we did. And
it sounds so crazy to say.
Really?
And yeah, it does. It does. Well, you probably travel in different circles. But I mean, to the rational people, most people hear that and they go, what, there were people on Mars? But as time goes on and more discoveries, we find out just about the structures that are on Earth and how old they might be, and the actual age of Homo sapiens, like how old we might actually be. Where a lot of, like, they found that skull in China the other day. That was, have you seen this? It's a 1,000,000-year-old Homo sapiens skull, but apparently there's some debate about it. They're going back and forth, but at the very least, it's in the conversation of human beings.
I lost my mom to COVID just a couple of years ago, and right before she died, she looked at me and she said, Greg, the world is going to hell in a handbasket. And I always got the going to hell part, and I never knew exactly what the handbasket.
I never understood that phrase. What is that phrase?
I don't know, but I knew what she meant. And what she meant was that the world looked scary to her, Joe, and it does to a lot of people. It looked like things were happening for no reason, for no apparent There was no apparent structure. It looked like things were just popping off here and there, out of control. It looked crazy. And she said, this isn't my world anymore. Well, we are in the middle of a process. Kicker. We're sending the Viking probes, Viking 1, Viking 2 in the 70s, went to Mars. 19,000 images were captured from the orbiting part of the mission. The other craft landed on the surface. And I can just imagine being on the surface, seeing this. It's like this thing is like a spider comes down the cloud of dust, and this little tube pops up, and some sticky dental floss stuff shoots out, and then they reel it in to collect dirt and microbes, and they reel it into broth because they're looking for evidence of life on Mars, and it's happening next to massive monuments and geometric structures that are now dated about 50,000 years BP, before present. So they're looking for microbes and signs of life next to the most massive signs of life that you could imagine.
These, you said they're dated to 50,000?
Happening in the world today, there's a concerted effort, Joe, to deny us our ability to express our humanness. And part of that effort is replacing our humanness with technology. So that's a big statement, and I know we'll...
But that's fairly recent, right? The effort to stop people from expressing their humanness, that's not recent.
Well, so now we're going to get to the crux of it. Genetics says this very clearly. We conclude that the origin of human chromosome 2 is the product of an ancestral fusion, of telomere to telomere fusion of two pre-existing chromosomes. That does not happen in nature. It can't happen in nature. So here's what they're saying. You got two fully formed, fully functional chromosomes, and on the end are the telomeres that protect those chromosomes when the cells divide. And that's why they're on the end. They take the hit. It's a trauma in a cell when those chromosomes are pulled apart and some of the DNA doesn't make it. So nature puts telomeres on the end to take the hit so the good DNA remains intact. And that's why it's on the ends. Human chromosome 2, those telomeres are right in the middle of the chromosome where they shouldn't be because those chromosomes were fused together about 200,000 years ago when we appeared. And if that was the only one, you could say, well, maybe it's a fluke. Chromosome number 7. I'm a musician when I'm not doing what I'm doing now, long before I was a researcher. And one of the things I always used to wonder about, we share 98% of our DNA with chimpanzees, but you don't hear chimpanzees sing.
Here's that interesting. This is Gospel of Thomas 1:14. That's how it ends.
Simon Peter said to them, "Let Mary go away from us, for women are not worthy of life." Jesus said, "Look, I will draw her in so as to make her male, so that she too may become a living male spirit similar to you. But I say to you, every woman who makes herself male will enter the kingdom of heaven." Okay.
So what they're talking...
What is going on?
Can you go pull
I'm just
pull up? I'm not sure why you chose that one.
I just was
But can you pull up numbers?
That's a very interesting part.
Well, we can talk
left
about
out.
it because it's in code. He's talking about the marriage, the sacred marriage of masculine and feminine, and it's when he said when you make the two one and the inside like the outside, then you will say the mountain move and the mountain will move. And what he's talking about is honoring the masculine and the feminine, and that's more than just